Tonight, reaction in Saskatchewan after Ottawa offers billions more in health dollars, but some say money is not the problem. Also, homicide and dangerous driving charges follow the death of 2 children and several injuries after a city bus crashed into a daycare north of Montreal. Plus, we introduce you to an 8-year-old Saskatchewan boy who inspires so many people with his moves.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, February 8th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. Good evening, and thanks for joining us. Saskatchewan's premier says he needs more time to consider Ottawa's proposal. The federal government tabled an offer yesterday to pump $46 billion in new money into the healthcare system over 10 years. But some say it's not how much money comes in, it's how it's used. Adam Hunter reports.
Today, Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe said in a statement he was disappointed by Ottawa's healthcare funding offer on Tuesday. He says it amounts to a 2% increase and falls short of what premiers have been calling for. One Canadian health policy expert says the near $200 billion proposal isn't a game changer.
Figure out once and for all if we have a money problem or do we have an organizational problem, an efficiency problem. I think it's more the latter than the former, and I think the evidence is we have, since 2000, a 27% increase in the Canadian population and a 106% increase in real terms in healthcare spending. Did that solve any of these problems? No.
The head of the Canadian Medical Association says the provinces and territories need to create better working environments for healthcare providers and improve access to primary care.
More than 6 million Canadians don't have access to a family physician. Many people are showing up to emergency rooms and not receiving care. We have reports of persons who are dying, waiting in emergency rooms while trying to get assessed. These things are just a sliver of what's actually going on in the healthcare system. The hard conversations that we need to have is how are we going to fix those problems?
I don't know how the country can stand by when 5 or 6 million Canadians don't have a regular source of care. I mean, that's a disgraceful and ominous statistic. And why we need to change how we do things is because we have more doctors than we ever did.
Right. Can you give me a nice deep breath?
Stephen Lewis says in the last 20 years, as the population has risen by 27%, the number of doctors has risen by more than 60%. He says there isn't a doctor shortage, but rather a shortage in family medicine. He says addressing that problem will require systemic changes and involvement from healthcare professionals, experts, and government. Lewis says the issue won't be solved with money. Premier Moe says he needs more time to evaluate the proposal and will meet with other premiers in the days to come. Adam Hunter, CBC News, Regina.
Ottawa's plan promises an immediate $2 billion top-up to try to stabilize the struggling healthcare system. That includes easing surgical and diagnostic backlogs. A woman from Crono knows firsthand how painful it can be to wait years for surgery. Vicki McDonald is recovering from a total knee replacement. She had the surgery last week after waiting 3 years. McDonald briefly considered paying for a private surgery out of province, but knew she could not afford the cost. She says the long wait interrupted her life and caused physical and mental pain.
When you're in that much pain by the end of the day, you just want to I can't do this anymore. And so it really takes a mental toll on your emotional and mental well-being as well. And having suffered from depression many, many years ago, it was really difficult for me to stay positive. I very much worry about what type of health care is going to be available for those who really need the health care. And those who can afford it can get it, and then we who need it just as bad are getting left behind.
Private surgical clinics around the country are advertising shorter wait times at a price, of course. As Mike Crawley shows us, a loophole in the Canada Health Act already allows patients to move to the private system if they pay the cost themselves.
Before he got a hip replacement, Mike Johansson found just about any activity brutally painful.
About 70–80% of the time was laying in bed. That was the only way that there really wasn't a whole lot of pain.
It took Johansson 6 months to get a consultation with the surgeon.
Then I was told from that point onwards it was an 18 to 24 month wait.
The prospect of waiting that long in that much pain sent him looking for options.
I had no idea what kind of condition or anything I'd be like after another 18 months of doing it.
Nearly 140,000 people get a hip or knee replacement each year in Canadian hospitals. Wait times vary widely, but 6 months is considered standard. Private surgical clinics around the country are advertising to patients that they can avoid those waits and get joint replacements done in just a few weeks if they pay. Mike Johansson spent more than $23,000 for his surgery.
Best investment I've ever made. I don't look at myself as a person who jumped to the front of the queue. I got out of the queue.
Yes. There's some evidence that paying to get surgeries done more quickly is a growing trend. Johansson came to this private clinic in a suburb of Montreal, where doctors only do joint replacements and only for paying patients.
Our volume at the clinic increased significantly in the last 2 years. There are more and more patients willing to pay for their hip or knee replacement.
The Canada Health Act generally prohibits doctors from charging for medically necessary surgeries, but there are exceptions, including doctors can charge a patient who has opted to travel from another province. This surgeon says more people paying privately won't solve the wait times problem.
What that does is it increases wait times for the rest of the people who are still in the public system because of the loss of resources from that public system into the private system.
Dr. Urbach says governments could shorten wait lists by putting more money into the system. Consider this operating room sitting idle on a weekday morning.
It could be used if the hospital had funding, if this hospital had staffing.
Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Mayor Sandra Masters has succeeded in tossing a Regina City councillor off the board of a city-owned organization. But the move did not come without a heated debate. Alexander Kwan has more.
On behalf of the Anti-Poverty Ministry, I want to express disappointment with the motion for removal of Councillor Dan LeBlanc.
Councillor Dan LeBlanc is no longer a member of the Board of Directors for Community and Social Impact Regina. It's the latest incident that highlights a growing rift on Regina City Council. And some say it's an example of political retribution from the city's mayor.
I see nothing convincing me that we should pursue this and essentially purge and punish a councillor for being committed to the issues.
The City of Regina's Social Impact Corporation is an arm's-length organization. It's meant to coordinate and support the well-being, health, and safety of residents in the city. The mayor made a motion to remove LeBlanc from the board. People who support him were out in force at City Hall, and some made presentations to council. But they were unable to save LeBlanc. In a previous interview, the councillor for Ward 3 has said he believes the motion was an act of retribution. LeBlanc, who's also a lawyer, represented Councillor Andrew Stevens as he took the city manager to court after a plan to end homelessness wasn't included in the city budget. Well, that lawsuit failed. It's clear the animosity on council has not.
This council has been very patient with other people suffering.
That statement alone would disqualify Councillor LeBlanc, in my mind, to serve on the committee.
LeBlanc considers it ironic that his dedication to addressing homelessness has resulted in him being pushed out of an organization meant to end social issues.
Who council appoints to committees are representatives of council. They're not representatives of a personal agenda.
The vote means Regina Council will now consider appointing its third councillor to the board of an organization that is less than 6 months old. LeBlanc was only appointed after Councillor Tarina Nelson withdrew from consideration due to comments she made about Indigenous culture and homelessness. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
With less than a week to go until CFL free agency begins, Rough Riders Vice President and GM Jeremy O'Day says they are going to be very busy trying to overhaul the roster.
You don't have to be super close to it, even if you're just a general fan. If you look at the amount of free agents that we have going into free agency and the activity that we had prior to free agency, that there's going to be change on our team, and it's change that we're excited about. I think if you look at our our team in the last 3 or 4 seasons. I think we had some really good success early on, and I think we've slowly regressed a little bit. Obviously, last year was a big regression with not making the playoffs. So anytime that happens, there's going to be change. The team's going to look different. So I don't think we're going to take the approach of we just had a bad year or there was just so many things that didn't go our way. We took the approach that we got to make change, and we're hoping the change is for the better.
There's much speculation. The Green and White will sign quarterback Trevor Harris as the starting quarterback for next season. The 36-year-old will be a free agent when the market opens February 14th. O'Day wouldn't say much, only that the club has had positive discussions with Harris and his team. The GM also says they're still actively pursuing their own players. Last night, the team signed American linebacker Larry Dean to a 1-year contract extension. The countdown is on for Saskatchewan athletes who will compete at the Canada Winter Games in 9 days. Today, Team Saskatchewan announced its flag bearer.
I'm excited to see what Saskatchewan can do at the Games. And I'm very proud to be walking in to the Games, kind of leading the pack.
Luca Wieman is a speed skater from Saskatoon. He's in Germany for the World Junior Speed Skating Championships. After that wraps up, he'll fly to Prince Edward Island to join the rest of Team Saskatchewan. 317 athletes, coaches, managers, and support staff will compete in 150 different events at the Winter Games. They begin February 18th. Well, 'tis the season with all the freezing and melting. SGI reminding you to start raking the snow off your roof to prevent ice damming. Those issues wouldn't be the same at the outdoor stadium in Regina, but they were out there strapped in and clearing off the roof at Mosaic Stadium today. Temperatures were nice, but it sure was windy up there. When will that wind die down? Ethan will have more on weather in the forecast after his break. Stay with us. An Indigenous artist and philanthropist from Alberta has teamed up with an Edmonton shoe company for a one-of-a-kind collaboration. He's designed footwear that celebrates, honors, and shares Indigenous culture and language.
So it was important for me in this collection to really look at different ways to celebrate Indigenous people, the First Nations people of Edmonton and also the Métis. So we looked at language as one of the main elements of that. I'm hoping people who see these shoes and wear these shoes can understand that this is a big moment for our people, that it's time for us to be celebrated, that they can take this sandal that looks at the different elements of Indigenous people, what we believe in, our ideals, our language, our culture, and wear them on their feet proudly and say, I celebrate Indigenous culture either as an Indigenous person or as an ally. What's really cool about our 7 sacred teachings slipper, which is sort of like our contemporary moccasin, that in that slipper, all the 7 animals of the 7 sacred teachings are in that slipper. If you look very closely, we really realized quite quickly that we could choose very bright, brilliant colors of leather, and then we could sort of etch in designs into it. So it's a very similar process to when I draw the initial drawing, and all that energy comes out of my mind and my spirit as an Indigenous person.
Well, with Lance, part of his work is color. That's such a big part of what brings so much joy to his paintings and work. So trying to convey that in a 2-tone laser etching is so different. So it was just creating shapes and negative space that would still bring the same excitement and storytelling to the shoes while just burning into the leather. One of our shoes, which is the MMIWG boot, which is called Being Honored. And this boot will be a charity piece where the proceeds from this boot, all of the profit and proceeds, will be going to local grassroots organizations that do work in the Edmonton community. So we felt very strongly that when Lance created this boot, we wanted to make sure that it had a message, but also would benefit the community that it is honoring and representing.
Raising awareness of the Indigenous culture and of the missing and murdered women and girls, it's a huge thing to have that out there in the fashion industry. When it comes to the fashion industry, it's not there, right, until now. So to see the collaboration it's phenomenal. And then with the proceeds coming to the support group, it's huge to be able to bring in more supports for families and be able to provide more spaces that are safe and inclusive for families to be able to talk about their loved ones, share their stories, and be able to really do that healing.
This weather update is brought to you by the Capital Automotive Group. Trade and upgrade is on now.
And our CBC weather specialist, Ethan Williams, joins me now. It's kind of a sloppy, cloudy, windy kind of Wednesday.
Yeah, real change from the last couple of days where we've had the sunshine and the really nice temperatures. It was close to freezing today in many locations in south and central. But yes, clouding over quite a bit. And the system is still working its way through. You can see some snow in south central and southwestern Saskatchewan. In fact, Highway Hotline reporting travel not recommended in some highways around the Val-Marie area. But we are starting to get clearing through some central and northern sections of the province now. The system going to quickly make its way out. And wind gusts still picking up. Of course, that's why travel is not recommended. The snow combining with a little bit of wind in southwestern sections. But we are starting to see those gusts calm down in the central part of the province right now. Cold air sinking its way southward, attached to this stationary front here. But through a lot of south and central right now, we are still hovering around freezing in places like Regina and Weyburn, and cooler around -5 in Saskatoon. Meadow Lake now almost around -10. Now, as the system moves out tonight, we still could see some patches of some freezing drizzle and some light snow, especially in southeastern and south central sections tonight. But then we get mostly clear skies overnight tonight. There is fog possible in the Churchill region of the province. Far north should be mainly clear. Then high pressure moves in tomorrow, and that kind of reinforces that colder air moving southward. Temperatures will drop a little bit through south and central, but another mostly sunny day, I think, in store for us until our next system comes along on Friday. South and central remaining sunny, but the Churchill region and parts of the far north going to see a bit of snow and maybe even a little bit of mixed precipitation with that. And that starts late Friday night, heading into early Saturday morning, and we could see about 5 to 10 centimeters in some sections of the province with that. Winds going to be dying down overnight tonight. Tomorrow, look for some gusts in southwestern Saskatchewan, but I think it'll be relatively light until Friday. Snow in the north, and then winds picking up in the south and central regions of the province. Now, with this warmer, sunnier weather, we kind of have visions of spring, and one sure sign is the snow runoff potential from the Water Security Agency. This is effective the first of the month. Below normal conditions in the south of the province because we had a really dry fall and then we haven't had much snowfall. But in around Moose Jaw, Regina, Weyburn, we actually had a little bit more snowfall, so that puts us at about average. Central Saskatchewan, the Churchill River region, it's actually above normal runoff predicted, but at this point, the WSA does not expect that there will be any flooding, at least as of this point. And in the north of the province, looking at near normal precipitation. They'll have a full update on the spring runoff next month. And of course, there's still lots of winter to go, so there could still be some major changes to runoff. But over these next few days in Regina, I think we are looking at dry conditions for the most part. A little cooler tomorrow, breezy Friday, Saturday, and then we're back above freezing for the next few days after that. And Saskatoon, same thing, well above normal for this time of year. Sunny through the weekend, maybe some snow possible on Monday. But if you're looking for any major runoff in this forecast, Sam, it won't be here because we're not seeing a lot of snow.
No, it's crazy when you say there's lots of winter left and then you see those temperatures.
Yeah, exactly. It's flying by with these nice conditions.
Absolutely. Thanks.
You bet.
Coming to the end of the third quarter. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone.
A defining moment in the outstanding career of LeBron James. He's already a living highlight reel, well and truly worthy of the nickname King James. And now he can add all-time scoring leader to his long, long list of accomplishments. We'll be back after the break. Quebec police have confirmed 2 children are dead. 6 more were injured after a city bus crashed into a daycare north of Montreal. Police arrested the 51-year-old bus driver who's facing charges of homicide and dangerous driving. Alison Northcott has this report from the scene in Laval.
The day was just getting underway when police say a city bus crashed right into this daycare. A chaotic and devastating scene unfolded. Witnesses rushed in to help, some holding the driver down until police arrived. They said he was acting erratic and wasn't wearing any clothes. Parents began to arrive, anguished, looking for their kids.
You said your husband saw it? What did he see? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, he saw the bus going inside the daycare, like panic, and I called all my friends, all the moms that goes there. So everyone was panicking, crying, comprehension. Are the kids okay? Is my kid affected? It's a lot of stress this morning.
There's a mother that came in and she just fell on the floor crying. She was hysteric. And the policewoman, she tried to calm her down, so I couldn't stand it anymore, so I just left.
Police arrested the 51-year-old bus driver, a Laval Transit System employee. Radio Canada sources say his name is Pierre Ni Saint-Armand. Police are continuing their investigation involving the entire Laval Police Department as they try to determine a motive. A nearby school is being used as a crisis center with psychological support for parents, daycare staff, and neighbors. Political leaders, including Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Premier François Legault, have sent their condolences to the families, referencing an unspeakable and unthinkable tragedy. Alison Northcott, CBC News, Laval.
And Ethan is back with one last look at your weather.
And we will get clearing tonight in Regina, around -10 at midnight. Those winds going to be dying down as we head through the evening. A little bit of a shock to the system, maybe tomorrow at 8 a.m. A little cooler than we've been used to seeing these days. -15. The wind chill going to feel probably closer to -20, maybe -25 in there, but mainly sunny nonetheless, and that's going to stick around as we head toward the noon hour. -9 is where we'll get to by noon. In Saskatoon, we are looking at mostly clear conditions at -12 overnight tonight. Winds light, continued clearing tomorrow morning around -20 again, a little cooler than we've been used to seeing these last few days, and then -8 by the noon hour. We should warm up to around -5 by the time we get to mid-afternoon, Sam.
Not a bad February day. Thanks, Ethan.
You bet.
And before we leave you tonight, we want to share the story of an 8-year-old Saskatchewan boy who's inspiring pretty much everyone who sees him. Keaton Constant is from the Wahpeton Dakota First Nation, and he has a condition that affects his legs. His family didn't know how mobile he would be as a baby, but when he goes to powwows, he moves to the beat.
He was always drumming and singing and stuff. And then his aunt and uncle gifted him some beadwork, some regalia, some cuffs, and for him to dance. So we suited him up that day, and after that, we just took off. We just going everywhere. Since he was a baby, we didn't know if he was going to be able to be mobile enough. And ever since he's been growing up, he's been able to going up and down stairs, on chairs, off of chairs, stuff like that. And he just started to do things on his own. And it all started out with a drum.
And we went to the Pegasus powwow.
Pegasus, yeah, that was a big one. That's where you sang with Northern Cree. They asked you to come sing with them.
Just added to the energy in the circle, and just a very special person that you can just feel. He just glows with it.
Just seeing him do his own thing, and just him being happy, and just he came back and he's like, "Dad, I did it." I said, "I'd seen you," and he was so proud, and I just took all of me to hold back my tears to see how happy he was, and just to see him smiling and laughing and having a good time out there.
Last year, the family did 12 powwows on their circuit, and they're busy making plans for this year. That is it for us tonight. For News Anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to CBC Saskatchewan's YouTube channel. Ethan will be back with more local news and weather at 11. Thanks for watching, and have a great night.